I'd like to call to order the Westmont Village Board meeting of June 21st, 2018 to order at 6 o'clock p.m. and ask Clerk Simsky for roll call.
Mayor Gunther?
Here.
The clerk's here. Trustee Addington?
Here.
Trustee Barker?
Here.
Trustee Barry?
Here.
Trustee Guzzo?
Here.
Trustee Little?
Here.
Trustee Nero?
Here.
Trustee Attorney Zimonek?
Not yet. Here.
Village Manager May? Finance Director Barker?
Here.
Would everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome. Open forum would be the first item. And I do have an open forum request. If there's anybody else who wants to speak on an item on the agenda, you'll have your opportunity then. If something's not on the agenda, see the chief and he'll get you an open forum request. So I do have one from Chris, how do you say that, Sweetek?
Close.
And he'd like to talk to the board about an upcoming event.
Well, good evening, everyone. You all know me. My name's Chris Sweetek. I'm addressing you tonight to bring you aware of an absolute epidemic within our nation. What I'm referring to is suicide. As of late, many people have heard about Kate Spade, Anthony Bourdain. Everyone, of course, has heard of comedian and actor Robin Williams. These great and successful people suffered from a very silent disease called depression. Sadly, they suffered alone, and nobody knew that until it was far too late. Even sadder that our town, Westmont, is no exception to this epidemic. I take this epidemic very personal. As many of you know, we lost our son to the exact same disease back in 2014. I had no idea that Jimmy was suffering the way that he was. I, at that time, was very uneducated on the signs of depression and suicide. It was not until after that dreadful day that I became very educated. What I found out was that he exhibited nearly every single sign to his ultimate action. What I also found out is there are organizations out there to help with this. Since the time of Jimmy's passing, my family and his friends have made it a mission to support the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Every year, the AFSP conducts a fundraising walk in Chicago and around the country, and it's called the Out of the Darkness Walk. We created an AFSP walking team called the Purple People. This team name was chosen because purple was Jimmy's favorite color, and it is one of the colors of the suicide prevention ribbon. Each year, our walking team raises between $2,500 and $5,000 for the cause of suicide prevention, education, and support of those struggling and affected by suicide. This coming August, we are planning a large fundraiser here in town to support the AFSP and its mission. It is going to be a fundraising motorcycle run, I'm sure everyone has heard of those, that will start in another town, but after the run is all said and done, it's going to end up right here in Westmont at one of our local businesses. The neat thing about this is we've only been in the planning stage for a week. We have already secured the final destination, food, music, and are planning a raffle or two, and who knows what else is going to happen. I've started working with Larry McIntyre to prepare the needed paperwork for this event. So, you're looking at me like, well, why is he here then? Well, I just wanted to give you guys a summary of what's coming up. You know, put that seed in your head and say, you know, this is going to be a good thing. So, hopefully, the summary, the plan is currently right now 99% we're going to choose August 18th, which is a Saturday. That may change a little bit. We're not quite sure yet. but we think that's going to be the date. We'll be approaching you at your next meeting with an official request. So if you have any questions, I will be glad to answer them for you.
Manager May.
We talked about, and it's nothing about the event itself, but our relationship, you last discussed it during the budget process, but although we don't have the agreement finalized yet, the intent was to use WSEC to vet out these requests, and WSEC would then submit the request to the village. So,
Right, which is why I've been working with Larry on this.
so WSEC and the WSEC board.
Yeah.
Not be the author, but submit that request with
Right.
you back to us. And then Larry would handle both ends of that. So,
I just wanted to stop in and give you guys, that little heads up, seed, however you want to look at it. All righty? Well,
Good
thank you for your
opportunity
time
to do
tonight.
that. It's a good opportunity to do that. Thanks, Chris. Seeing no one else here for open forum, I'll close open forum and move on to reports. I have two items. Our Sister City update. Our friends from Hsinchu will be here July 8th through the 15th. We plan to have a welcome reception for the delegation at Village Hall at 10 a.m. on Monday, July 9th. If members of the village board are available, we hope you can attend that, and we'll give you more information. July 4th, the day before our next meeting, is our annual Independence Day celebration at Ty Warner Park. This started in 2000, it has continued. It is probably one of the better fireworks displays in the area. So again, activities start at 4, 9:30 is when the fireworks start. So come on up and enjoy the day. And that's it, and I'll go to Clerk Simpson.
And I just have a few announcements. Village offices will be closed, of course, on Wednesday, July 4th, in observance of Independence Day. And so we have no excuses from anybody for not being at Ty Warner Park that night. And the community garage sale will be held August 3rd, 4th, and 5th between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. And you can visit westmont.illinois.gov for details. And I just want to give a great, big shout out to our Deputy Chief Gruen on his fabulous cruising night, squad car night. It was outstanding. We're all so proud of you. You had so many squads there and so many people, you could hardly get down the street. So congratulations. It was a fun time.
I'll move on to Trustee Addington.
Thank you, Mayor. In connection with the visitation from Taiwan, several of those folks that are coming are Lions. So on the 11th of July, there will be a whole bunch of activities surrounding the Lions Club. We're taking them over to international headquarters, and a couple other things. So we're also getting involved as a Lions Club. I understand one of the gentlemen coming from Taiwan is the council chairperson for that multiple district this year. So that makes him a international officer, and so it's kind of exciting to have those kind of folks come visit us. The other thing I have is next Tuesday is supposed to be the legislative meeting for DuPage mayors and managers, and I will not be able to attend next Tuesday. If somebody else can be there, I don't know if there's a lot on the agenda, but
I'll look.
there always is, isn't there?
yeah. And that's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Trustee Guzzo.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things. First, our next Public Safety Committee meeting will be Thursday, August 16th. Everyone is invited to attend. It is 4:30, and it will be before our regular village board meeting that evening. The fire department, the 95th anniversary celebration is coming quickly. The committee continues to promote the open house on Saturday, October 13th, 1 to 3 p.m. at the Southside Fire Station. Everyone is invited to attend. Members of the fire department will be handing out save the date cards at all the special events coming up. So please mark that on your calendar. We want a really good turnout that day. Police department, I am going to echo the clerk's sentiments. Squad car night was amazing. Thanks for all the police department volunteers, all the law enforcement personnel who brought out their vehicles, and the Westmont Special Events Group for their assistance with the overall coordination. Last count, we had 52 squad cars, 93 officers and guests representing those squad cars, and numerous people walking up and down the street seeing our great business district. So I want to say kudos, the weather was perfect, everything was great. And then secondly, National Night Out. This is new this year. The Westmont Police Department and Westmont Special Events will work together to promote National Night Out as part of Westmont Cruisin' Nights. The date will be Thursday, August 2nd. Activities will be in the Manning School parking lot. Everyone is invited to attend. Come on out and have a great night. And I just want to wish everybody a happy first day of summer. Great weather. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Trustee Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're not exactly sure when our next EDC meeting is going to be. We may call one in August as things arrive, but right now the next scheduled will be September 5th. But exciting here, we have all are invited to the business after hours and ice cream social at the Edward Jones Investments. This is Violet Hawkins, and she's done this, I think, almost every year since she's been here. And this is going to be on June 28th from 4:30 to 6. Anyone interested in going should RSVP at the westmontchamber.com, and that is located at 8 West Burlington Avenue, basically right across from the Village Hall here. That's all I have this evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Trustee Nero.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few items. Before our board meeting, we had a Public Works Committee meeting. Just want to rehash a few items that we discussed. First and foremost, we gave one of our employees, Rose, a 20-year service plaque, so congrats to her and thanks for all your service. We also discussed the new Village Fueling Center, which is going to be located behind the South Fire Station. Pretty easy to get in and out of. Can't wait to see it. And then we also discussed the potential North Side Water Tower, which we're working on a location with the school district to put it near the high school. So more to come on those three items. And we also talked about the future Public Works facility. It's about 80% to design, so expect to see that once they wrap that up and what it's going to look like. And last, Mike, our Public Works Director, also brought us up to speed on a bill in the state level, SB 3080, which is the lead service replacement bill. Just made us aware of a lot of the quirky requirements, things that could potentially cost the village quite a bit of money. So thanks for bringing us up to speed on that, and we'll all keep our eyes on that and see how it progresses. And the last thing is our next Public Works Committee meeting is August 30th, right here at Village Hall at 4:30. And that's all I have, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Trustee Little.
Thank you, Mayor. We have our next Administration/Finance Committee meeting will be held on July 5th at 4:30 in this room, so please feel free to come out and join us for that one. We will also have a community branding meeting, which will be held Wednesday, June 27th at 6 o'clock at the Public Library. The agenda will include information on our mural initiative and other programs. For community events that have been happening, the cruising nights and street fair are being held every Thursday night, except tonight. It was canceled due to rain. This year, we will have 12 cruising nights total, and we will have an artisan night later this month. We're looking at alternative dates. The USA Luge Slider Search event, in spite of the heat, happened over the weekend, and we had a great turnout with more than 100 athletes participating. And we had many, many thanks going out to the Public Works, the police, the fire, and the EMA for assistance with the event. And then last, but certainly not least, is the Taste of Westmont. The dates are looking at July 12th through the 15th. And if you're looking to volunteer, because we need you, go to westmontevents.com, scroll down and hit sign up now, and we could use you at the beer tent, we can use you at the carnival, we can use you at the volunteer tent, and it's a lot of fun. We only ask for a couple of hours from everybody. You get a t-shirt, a couple of drinks, and it's always a lot of fun.
Great deal.
And that's all I have.
Well, thank you.
Mayor.
Trustee Barker.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one thing this evening. The EIC committee will meet on July 2nd, and I wanted, and to do them justice, that's a meeting that doesn't happen before a board meeting, but in conjunction with the library, they had a guest speaker, and I had talked about this before, about dark skies. And the person that spoke was actually from the Illinois Lighting, www.illinoislighting.org. And their organization here in Illinois looks at LED lighting and what it's actually doing to the environment. And it's very alarming as to all the things that the globe is doing wrong when it comes to LED lighting. So I'd ask you in your spare time to take a look at their website and start to learn this, so that when it comes to lighting outside of your home or in your home, that you try to make an informed decision. And people are so behind the curve as far as knowledge as to how LED lighting can affect your health. It affects animals. The glare is bad for our police protection. There's all kinds of things that we're doing wrong there. And they're kind of ringing this bell and drawing it to everybody's attention. So I'd ask you, I gave you 3 websites, the Illinois Lighting one, www.darkskies.org, and the AMA actually has some stuff in there about the health effects that LED lighting can cause. But then, you know, that doesn't do anything for another sheet that I provided for you is about the wasted light. And, you know, while LED lighting is cheaper and it lasts longer and it has that benefit, instead of reducing their light, people are just putting up more. And it's, you know, it's more light that we essentially don't need. So I'd ask you to start to get the education, and really the, you know, the bigger crime of all of that is this photo here, and it shows that 8 out of 10 Americans can no longer see a night sky. You know, you can't see the Milky Way, so they have no idea how vast the universe is, because you can't see, and it's all due to overlighting. Light pollution. And so I'm bringing that to your attention. Please start to learn about that on behalf of the Environmental Improvement Committee and the Globe. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Moving on the agenda, items to be removed from the consent agenda. Any board member want any item? If not, I'd ask Manager May to please read the consent agenda.
This evening, on the consent agenda, first we have village board minutes. Board to consider approving the minutes of the village board meeting held June 7, 2018. That's followed by finance ordinance number 4 in the amount of $2,008,220.14. Next, we have purchase orders. First purchase order being Stryker Medical, $21,041.16. As for the purchase of a replacement, a power cot for the ambulance. Next purchase order is the Village of Addison, $629,014.02. And this is a total annual cost for the consolidated dispatch services for public safety. This is a open purchase order for the year. Invoices are made off of that. Next purchase order is Dumeg, $20,800. This is also an annual contribution. Dumeg is the DuPage Metropolitan Enforcement Group. Next purchase order is Lane Western, $77,828. That's for the contractor services for the abandonment of Well 13. You heard about that at the Public Works Committee. Next purchase order, DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference, $25,436.70. That represents annual dues. Next is Westmont Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Bureau, $24,000. This is an annual amount also representing the Auto Mile membership. Next is also Westmont Chamber, $42,000. That's for Chamber of Tourism Services. It's also a total annual cost encumbering for the whole year. And next, Westmont Chamber purchase order is for $88,585. That's the Economic Development Partnership, also an annual amount. The total of those purchase orders comes to $928,704.88. And that brings the total of purchase orders and finance ordinance number 4 to $2,936,925.02. Even though it's numbered as a separate item on the agenda, the next item is a special event, a community event. It's for Angel Haven Foundation. I'm saying this is part of the consent agenda, despite how it's numbered. Angel Haven Foundation, you heard her 2 weeks ago under open forum, but it's the annual, board to consider an ordinance approving the following requests from Angel Haven Foundation, a not-for-profit, for their annual fundraising yard sale. It includes the approval of a 4-day yard sale. It's held at 213 East 55th Street, which is the corner at Wilmette. It'll be held on June 21st through 24th, 2018, and it's from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. It includes the request includes a waiver of the tent permit fees for this yard sale and waiver of the village's loan a truck program fees associated with that. And that concludes the consent agenda, Mayor.
Do I have a motion to approve as read?
Motion to approve Addington.
Second Little?
Motion made and second to approve. On the question. Anybody got a question? I do have to say the Angel Haven set up today and had everything covered up, but they have tons of stuff. And they're not pricing it, they're asking for donation.
Right.
So if you get an opportunity, stop. And they're right in front off of 55th Street. Seeing no other comments or questions, I'd ask for a roll call, please.
Trustee Addington?
Yes.
Trustee Guzzo?
Yes.
Trustee Barker?
Yes.
Trustee Little?
Yes.
Trustee Barry?
Yes.
Trustee Nero?
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving on to unfinished business. This is an item several items that we postponed because there were several questions that were brought up and very good questions at the last meeting. Before I go through each line item, and everybody will have a chance to discuss or give us their comments, I'm going to ask Manager May to sum up those questions and some of the answers we found.
Okay, thank you. The, would you like me to introduce all the items and all the addresses as well at this time? Or you want to call those off separately? I mean, the description is the same for all these locations.
Yeah.
So tonight, we're considering 308 61st Street and Downers Grove. These are, when I say Downers Grove or Willowbrook or Clarendon Hills, these are the mailing addresses for these properties, but they are in incorporated territories, surrounded, wholly surrounded by one or more municipalities, being the Village of Westmont and whatever municipality, but these are all surrounded by Westmont. I mentioned 308 61st Street. We have 523 through 547 63rd Street, Willowbrook. 527 West 64th Street, Willowbrook. 6003, 6023, 6027, 6033 South Richmond, and 416 West 61st Street in Willowbrook. We have 5802 and 5806 Western Avenue, Clarendon Hills, and 5829 and 5861 Western Avenue in Clarendon Hills. Another note, the reason these are grouped together as they are is together those addresses in each item constitute one surrounded island, so they're approached as a whole. We had the discussion, it was 4 weeks ago at the village board meeting when this was first on as new business. There were a lot of questions that came up, many questions that came up that were, most of them were unique to individual addresses, and we looked into those, and all but the cases we'll mention here, the individual answers were given back to the person that asked the question. I can summarize those real quickly, but the one assignment that was given back to staff was the, one question that came up was the, although not our intent as part of the involuntary annexation, but the village has already a standing ordinance that requires connection to the public water supply should it be available adjacent to the property. And the concern is since we weren't going in this other than the expenses that come with just being in different taxing districts, not to incur costs, it's not being done for that purpose. So we looked into what that would be and what to consider. So I'll start with that one. The question was, will connection to the village water and sewer be, part of this action. And as I just explained, it's not part of this action. Speaking to the sewer first, it's the Flag Creek Water Reclamation District. They are their own district and their own government. We've reached out to them. They did tell Director Ramsey that they don't make anybody force connect to anything to. If they wanted to on an address by address basis, they would, if they were contacted by that property owner, or I guess by us, they could write an individual letter stating that. But the bottom line is that's not our business anyway. And then the water, public water supply is what we talked about. So staff reviewing it and putting it together came to, not wanting, we already don't, I don't want to say don't enforce it, but we have not implemented that ordinance unless there was another significant improvement going on where that would be an expectation. So just for purposes of doing it, no one can think of any example where that was done, but nonetheless, there was the interest in what you called grandfathering, but like the term to ensure that these specific addresses would not have that requirement in the new future. So the recommendation from staff is to, the postponement would be a 5-year term. That would just be that that would just override the ordinance that says that it's mandatory today. We're suggesting 5 years. It doesn't mean that in 5 years you have to make a connection. It just means we're not going to talk to anybody about it, assure them for that 5-year period. There's also, we're comfortable with that, but there's also other things that could occur on the property where we in fact would expect a water connection. And those include any request for a plumbing permit for a new improvement. This would be like a plumbing permit, like a kitchen, a bathroom, a significant remodel. It would not include appliance replacement like water heaters or washer. We're not talking about that as far as a plumbing permit. So if there was an investment in the plumbing, at that time, then we would want water connection to be part of that permit application. Next trigger would be a failure of the existing private well system. This is kind of already a requirement at DuPage County level. But if, you're not allowed to, you can do maintenance on the well, but you can't replace it, and you cannot certainly re-drill a new one. So that would trigger a connection. Any voluntary home improvement in excess of $50,000, we were just looking for a value, meaning that if you're already making a significant investment, then there's no reason to postpone the other requirement. It says the recommendation is value or constituting at least 30% of the existing gross square footage of the main structure, meaning if you're putting in an addition or something, that would kick in. It would not include construction or improvements to detached garage, accessory structures, assuming those don't affect the well or the septic field or something like that. That isn't the purpose here. Any involuntary home improvement, so if there was something you suffered as part of a natural disaster, tornado, fire, or other situation where the damages are at least 30% of the existing gross square footage of the main structure applied, then we would expect this. Any sale of the property, this offer, this recommendation is for the property owner, not for the property. So if you sold the home, the requirement would not pass on. Not the requirement, the postponement. And any subdivision of the property, which should be obvious, but we put that in there too. So that's the list of inventories that staff is recommending be applicable triggers to what we're calling the 5-year, I don't even want to call it a moratorium, just a postponement of implementation of the other ordinance that requires connection. Other types of questions that were asked, like I said, they were answered individually, but just to summarize those, once annexed, current library or fire protection tax extensions be removed, and a similar question was a question regarding a bond issue for the library or fire protection district after disconnection, because is there an obligation to still be for that bond? Should it be? And Mr. Parker reached out to the county clerk and verified that it is in fact a valid concern, and that would be a requirement, and they would still remain, even though you're switching districts, you still have the obligation, but they also can find no record of an applicable bond that's out there that this would apply to. So it was a good question, it just does not apply. And then there were general questions about water connection fees. There were some sample notes in here. I mean, I distributed into the village board via email, but typical costs for, you know, a 1-inch connection or a 1.5-inch connection, depending on your need. And just the you know, parts for copper and those replacements vary anywhere from $3,600 to $4,500. And then that would be on top of the permit fees to do the connection too. Another Flag Creek Water Reclamation District note saying that we don't have their answers for you. Are there any recapture fees? If there are recapture fees, they're recorded against, you know, the property already, and each recapture is different, so there's just not one answer for that question. If there was one, there would be, it's typically for some public improvement that was already provided by someone else at their expense. I think I explained that at the last meeting too. And they're almost always calculated that you pay per a unit cost per foot of your frontage. So if you've got a 60-foot wide lot, it would be $60 times that number, that recapture fee. And then if you had 150 feet, it would be the same. That's if there's even one at all. And no recaptures apply if you don't make the connection. If we're talking about a water main recapture, none would apply if you never made a connection anyway. That's just for new access. How will my taxes be affected? So there was, Mr. Parker again put together a little chart with water costs, garbage bills, yard waste stickers, property taxes, and every property is unique. His rough assessment of these fees was based on a $300,000 home with a corresponding $100,000 EAV. And using the $100,000, these were calculated out. So the category of water costs actually has nothing to do with the value of the home, but the annual water costs actually decrease with the annexation if you're already on the village water supply. If you're on a well, that answer doesn't apply. You don't have costs. But what we charge for out-of-town rates for water service are greater than in-town, so there would be a savings there just based on that. The garbage bill actually goes down, but of course, depending on the garbage bill goes down, but there was the question about high use of yard waste, bags and stickers, and in that situation, a very, you know, high user, those costs, you know, can go up by as much as $300, $380 based on the example that was presented at the meeting. Next are property taxes for the line items that would apply to the village, the fire department, fire protection services, and the library. Together with the EAV, the change is approximately $95 a year based on an increase, $95 a year based on the $100,000 EAV. So that's a summary of everything that came up. There were actually other questions that came up after the meeting that went directly to staff. I'll not remind you, but you heard a comment from someone that was in permit application, or actually they were in a home design where they were submitting for permit application under DuPage County. That submission was done. They've already turned it in once and it's returned back to them again. The second submittal will be added
You just walked
in next week, but certainly if the permit was issued, they'd be allowed to build under the permit that was issued. They did not need to start over with the village requirements. But because it's in application now and not knowing how that will affect their review at DuPage County and not wanting to get into making anybody have to start over, the request for that address, which was one of the ones on Western Avenue.
Second from the last.
5802. 5802 Western Avenue is the one in permit application, are asking for a 4-week extension on our action here, so just another postponement, not to not do it, but to add 4 weeks so that permit process can complete. And while you're thinking about that, you would have to consider that for 5806 just the delay, the postponement as well, only because they're on the same plat and they're part of the same island that I was describing before. So, I mean, I'm sure there's questions, but that's a.
Summary from last meeting.
Yeah.
Spencer, is anything you think we summarized pretty much?
No, the manager summarized it pretty well.
Okay. At this point, rather than start the individual agenda items, the opportunity to speak to the board, this is your opportunity. If you,
Any address?
pardon?
Any
Yeah,
address.
any address now, because, so you just need to come to podium, state your name and your address, and someone's got to start.
Hi, I'm at 5806. You just mentioned that, Western Avenue. So they're doing the 5802, the new build. Ours is an existing small house. I talked last time. So I got a quote on the possible having to attach to the water, and you talked about the 5-year extension. My question is, have you ever, you said you've never forced anyone to hook up to the water or the sewer. That's correct?
We've never applied it just for purposes of applying it. Like, for example, the triggers I mentioned, if we have used that in those situations, but we've never just done it to go do it.
Okay. And then you said the additions, what was the, an addition of $10,000 on it? Or 50? I think you mentioned something earlier, and then you said 50,000.
Yeah, the purpose of even adding it, from my perspective, while he looks it up, is it was just to, if you're going to make a bigger investment, then the reason to postpone it is to not create a hardship. But if you're voluntarily doing other constructive improvements, then we would expect that to be included.
It was the 50,000.
So if I was doing a $50,000 addition on the house, whether that, used sewer or water, that would still trigger, then I would have
Water.
to.
The
What's
water-
that?
The water portion.
The water, not the sewer.
Correct.
Okay.
That's the recommendation.
Okay. That's interesting. So then that would be then, okay, if we did a $50,000 improvement, the quote that I got a couple of different quotes. That'd be $40,000 for the line.
Just for the water?
For, it'd probably be half and half, so 20 for one, 20 for the other. They have to be a separate ditch
Yes.
that's dug for both.
10 feet.
So that would be then, if I did a $50,000 improvement on the house, which wouldn't be hard to do a $50,000, I mean, that would, add up pretty quick. So then it'd actually be 70,000, correct?
Yeah.
Right,
With
okay,
with your figures, yes.
okay. So what is the point of the 5-year extension? Why not just put that in the language and say, this is not required, unless you voluntarily decide you want to do this, or these very specific numbers of an addition? Why the 5-year extension?
I will answer the question from my perspective, but
Okay.
it was a request from the village board for us to look into. As it stands right now, the reason for the extension is the extension of where we would never apply that other ordinance that already exists. So right now, today, I'm not suggesting this or mean anything by it, but this whole extension could just be ignored and just applies today anyway. So the purpose of the triggers would be where we would not want the extension to apply anymore. So if we weren't talking about an extension, we don't care about the triggers because we already do that. I don't know if that answered your question, but
Not
it
exactly.
was the village board that asked, they wanted to take into your consideration your request of assurances that you're not going to face a $20,000 hardship the day after we voluntarily
So
annex
I
it.
could do an addition for the next 5 years. I could do improvements, and it wouldn't incur any sort of,
It would trigger.
Right. is that correct?
If you do home improvements starting tomorrow.
Okay.
That total $50,000 or more.
Okay.
Or include an expansion of 30% or more of the current gross square footage of your house.
Okay.
That would trigger the water connection requirement.
It would trigger right away, not in 5+ years.
The
Okay.
purpose of the 5 years was to come up with a year to kind of amortize in the requirement, so the homeowners can start saving money for that, knowing that in 5 years, the village might come knocking and say, hey, it's time to connect. Village manager is saying, we're not necessarily doing that, but it is on the books of the ordinance that once you annex, you have to connect. So the 5 years seemed like a reasonable time period.
Okay.
But
Why
every
not
2
just
years,
have
the
it,
village board could be a different composition. We can't speak for future, opinions on it.
why not just have it never, ever having to do that? Like, it's
I
never
guess that would just
required.
be the same reason why have the ordinance in the first place. So there's a desire to be on the public water system, both for, efficiencies and for, it actually is a benefit. It might not seem like it because you've got the cost, but just being on the public water supply is a valuable thing for your home value and otherwise.
Is it detrimental to the village if it's extended? If we put, instead of 5 years, we make it 8 years?
Your option is just, somebody's got to,
At some
You
point.
can make it 20 years, and 19 years from now, no one's going to remember that was in there,
Jim will still be there.
But you can have whatever term you want.
Go ahead. I mean,
Okay, well, I mean, just think of like $20,000 over the course of 5 years, like how much per month, would I have to save up if potentially that bill was gonna hit? And you're saying it might not hit, right? Like you might not do that, aside from an addition.
Yeah,
Like, you
I've
could
been
just
here
say,
since 1986, excuse me, and I know of no example where we just did it.
you've had somebody do that, other than if they triggered it for some reason.
Right.
or if
Okay,
they voluntarily annexed, then.
got it. But you could, you still could.
That's why we're talking about it.
Okay.
That question came up last time.
Got it. Okay, so I just want to kind of understand that there's a possibility that this bill could come in the mail and say, hey, you have to hook up. We decided that you do have to hook up, those things. That is a possibility.
It is a possibility,
Okay.
and it's also true for 100% of all the other residents in the village of Westmont are held to the same standard and criteria that are on wells.
Got it, okay. All right, I just
But in
wanted to clarify
the way
that.
it's written now, those first the 5 years, it's only if one of those triggers are activated.
Got it, okay. So then I won't get a bill for 5 years unless I do an addition.
Then there's no, like manager said, we never forced someone to take the water.
Okay, I'm just,
Like the
I'm always
normal-
interested in, don't say you're gonna do it. Write it out and, actually put it in the language, obviously that's what you guys do.
It will.
Okay,
I
I
thank
was just wondering, thank
Thank you.
you.
Before she leaves,
Ah,
your service, is that an excessively long service? I thought you said you were in the back of the property.
We have a really long driveway. I'd say it's 50 meters off of the street. So I got a quote for both, and again, I think you would know that, I don't know who. The separate ditches have to be dug for sewer and water. You can't have them in the same ditch. So the quote was $40,000, and I had a couple of plumbers come out, and they're like, "Why would you want to do this? This is insane." I'm like, "No, I don't want to do it. I just want the quote for it." So, anyways, okay, I'll stop talking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had,
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, not necessarily of you, this is, that $20,000 that $20,000 quote to put in the water line, do you think when the plumber was quoting that, they were including the fees that you had mentioned for the connection?
I don't really know. I don't have a
Yeah.
feel for that work. It doesn't come up often.
Yeah, okay.
I wouldn't think so. I don't think you would know the fees.
So that
Hope
would,
so.
that's probably on top
Well,
of,
yeah,
all right.
Steve,
Thank
just a
you.
clarification, when you opened up, you said that any permit would trigger it, but then you mentioned that a hot water heater wouldn't. But
I
would
said
that-
any plumbing permit, but if someone has a bad water heater and they're just swapping out the water heater, I don't think that should trigger a
Isn't
$20,000.
that a plumbing permit?
What's
I'm
that?
just trying to clarify, if it's any plumbing permit, wouldn't I have to pull a plumbing permit to get a hot water heater?
But that's excluded
But
from the ordinance.
Right,
Okay.
the ordinance itself would exclude that, so that something like that, I don't know how much they're worth, $200-300 investment doesn't trigger a $20,000 burden.
Let's say I was doing a bathroom remodel that I'm pulling a permit
And
and
the
it's,
fixtures
and
and-
it's only $10,000 and it's involving the plumbing of repiping that bathroom, that would trigger it.
That's our recommendation. You can alter that any way you want.
We could change it if you.
But I'm just, again, just clarifying, and this may be some of the questions here.
These are voluntary actions by the homeowner to make an investment in the home. We would not want this ignored.
Okay. Again, just, it seems a little confusing that if it's $50,000, but yet it's any permit, with maybe the exception
No.
of a couple things.
It clearly states, if you read the ordinance that was presented, that there are exceptions to plumbing permit, and a water heater is one of them. So it's not saying any plumbing, it's saying plumbing permits with the exclusion of.
Again,
An
the
appliance.
statement that Manager May said is that any permit, and that's why I was questioning.
So if you did a $50,000 addition that did not have a bathroom in it, it was just a large family room or something, that's still a $50,000 investment in the property. That's where the thought for that trigger came
So,
from.
but a $30,000 bathroom would not kick it in?
It would, because that's a
Okay,
plumbing
again, I
permit.
just want to clarify to everyone
Other than
that it's.
routine maintenance for hot water heaters, an appliance or something, if a permit was needed, any other plumbing permit would trigger it, as currently written.
Is there, is
Okay,
it?
thank you.
Is it bad from the village's standpoint if everything's a 50,000? Is there?
Sir, we're just trying to answer
Just-
the question from last time. I mean, we came into this with the original recommendation that none of this was even being considered.
Okay.
So it's whatever you're comfortable with.
And then,
Steve, these
ahead.
proposed triggers are the same we do with other folks on wells within town. There's
Well,
nothing new, right?
and less.
Except the extension.
There's smaller triggers, yeah, that would do that too, so.
Trustee Barker.
What I was trying to do is kind of get a feel for the homes in that area. If, you know, the $20,000 one is the high, is it normally a lot shorter run of piping than that? Do we have any feel for that? They're not all in the back of the property, they're not all this 50-meter length of pipe. It's, in most cases, it's much less than that, I'm assuming. Do we?
Seems high.
Well, I mean, she's in a situation there where it's a long run, unfortunately, but not every lot over there is in that same
Commonly, it's,
circumstance.
25, 30, 35-foot setback, that's a real deep one. You have, what if the water main's on the other side of the street? Now you've got the expense of augering underneath, the pavement.
So it could go there.
Yeah, it could be more expensive than $20,000 if you gotta go under the street.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We live at 6027 Richmond. We actually hooked up to water a few years ago, and it was about $12,000, but there were other costs involved. So if you have like older pipes, you got to rip all the pipes out of the house, and we had to completely redo everything, so that definitely added to the cost.
The
And,
12,000
Also
included
heard
the villages,
thing today.
Yeah, everything. It was
For everything, okay.
12,000, but we're pretty close to the street.
Yeah.
I think we're like maybe 40 feet or something from the street, so just to let you guys know that.
thank you.
Sure.
and then too, if you're adding, let's say you're adding 2 bathrooms, they also have to take a look too at their water supply line, because I know there can be issues if the water supply isn't big enough, it would trigger because you're not gonna be able to get the pressure that you're gonna need, so that would be a good trigger, I think, to.
Right, and the height of the building, so water pressure's on the second floor, there's, you very well know getting more and more common fire fire suppression in single-family residences are getting more popular. So that would be all good reasons to make not even a connection, a big connection, 1.5 or a 2-inch connection.
Yeah.
Next.
Hi, I'm at 416 61st Street, and I have a question about the sidewalks. I've got sidewalks on either side of my property. Is that something that would be put in on my property?
You have them or you don't have them?
I don't have them, but I have them on one side and the other side of my property.
Not as part of this action, the what's called the public right-of-way or the parkway in front of your home is more than likely already in the village of Westmont. So the sidewalk program's handled differently. I don't really have an answer for you at your location, but the, that could be a future project, but it's not related to the action
To the
happening
annexation?
tonight, right? You're not expected to install a sidewalk, if that was the
Okay.
question, yeah.
I'm just, is there someone that can come out and I can go over this?
Yes.
Property
In
and
fact,
just show-
Public Works Director Ramsey's in the back, and he'll get your contact information and.
Okay, all right, very good.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll close the open forum portion of it, and before we call one, I'll open it up for board comments.
I only have one, and I kind of mentioned the same thing at the last meeting we talked about this, and I appreciate some of the comments that have come, especially on the lady who's got the deep setback, because that's an expense. But that has nothing to do with the annexation. The purpose of the law that allows us to do this is really so that we bring those properties that presently aren't in the village and square off boundary lines and give those properties a better value, but at the same time give them the services that can't be given to anybody else because they're surrounded by us.
Or in some cases, already receiving services
Receiving
that
the
other
services,
people are.
right. So that's really the purpose here, and I appreciate very much the suggestions that Manager May has made with the staff, with giving them the time, the 5 years or whatever we decide is the number. If they don't do anything, we're not gonna force them. But there are some triggers, sale of the property or doing extensive work that may trigger it. But that's not what we're trying to accomplish, or what we're trying to accomplish is bring those areas in, to give them the better service that they'll get from the village, as they would get in any town that's brought in. We are surrounded by that community. They're going to get better service and better value for being part of it than not being part of it. And that's the purpose of this. Like I said, this is my third time through this exercise, and the discussions haven't changed that much. But it has to be done.
Any other comments from Trustee Barry?
No,
Oh,
I'm sorry, no, I
thought when you take your glasses off, you.
I had a question. Has this material been presented to all the homeowners in written format?
Oh, no. The answers to the question are suggestions back to you tonight. That one question with the postponement and the triggers. The other questions that were individually asked were either answered at the meeting last time or the ones that needed to be looked up. Mostly Mr. Parker, like the ones about the bonds and the library districts. Those people were contacted individually who had the question.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Barker?
I'll just make a comment then. So if we decide that the postponement of 5 years is a good thing, and we wanted to go forward with that, there is nothing preventing us or any future board from continuing that postponement.
Yeah, but you would be doing that by just not invoking the other ordinance that exists. I mean, if you wanted to formalize it, you. Right.
No,
You could always do that.
it would be somebody else's, potentially somebody else's question,
Except me.
Yeah,
except
he'd
Jim.
still be,
Some of
future
this is
boards
re-
can't rescind that. It has to go through the 5-year.
Yeah. But you're right,
Yes,
Bruce.
because they
if-
would have vested rights that they've been relying on the homeowners. Okay. So normally a board can rescind an ordinance, but if third-party rights have intervened, and in this case, their rights would have intervened because they would have relied on that, subsequent board cannot revoke that.
But they could extend it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
The only comment I'd have is, would it be simpler, and I know Trustee Barry talked about the permit, would it be simple just to use the $50,000 figure on any, because the plumbing, which you were saying if it's $10,000, it would trigger a,
I just didn't want the people to be misled that
That's-
50,000 was
yeah.
the number, that if you did do a 5,000 or a 10,000 and it's gonna trigger that, it could trigger it. And I just wanted to clarify that. I'm sorry if I, didn't address it correctly, but that's what I wanted to clarify to the people.
And I just asking the attorney or staff, is there a problem if we made it all 50,000? Is there?
No, and in some levels, it makes sense because you still have the 5-year requirement in there. So you're not gonna ding someone for a small
Yeah.
plumbing project that's $5,000, $15,000
Yeah.
and raise the threshold.
If you wanted a number to be 50, you could just eliminate the line that refers to plumbing permits, and it's just a $50,000 improvement.
Yeah.
Or was there a square footage or?
Yeah.
I'm okay
Well,
with
it's
that.
still 30% still
Yeah.
a trigger, but I'd like to just see it 50,000.
Right across the board.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Everybody's okay?
It's better for the people.
Take each one
2005 years?
separately, John?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Take each one separately?
yes.
When we're ready to vote, yes.
Yeah.
Jumping ahead of me here.
I know.
He's ready.
Should have waited till it was motioned, yeah.
Any board members, any other comments?
The only thing I'd like to say is thanks for coming out and giving us all your comments and us giving you the opportunity to get the answers you wanted. So I just want to say thanks, and it was appreciated.
Okay. A, 308 61st Street, Downers Grove, involuntary annexation. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve with the trigger of $50,000 in improvements for any purpose, and 5 years before they have to discuss, if they do nothing, that they don't have to put water in.
Does he have to include that? It's all right.
I'd rather you say motion to approve per the discussion tonight, because there are a list of conditions here that the
All right.
manager may went over, and we don't want to exclude those.
All right.
So what's
So
your
motion to approve based on the discussion this evening.
Second, Nero.
Motion made, second. Any additional comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Guzzo.
Yes.
Trustee Little.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Motion passes. New business, unfinished business B, 523 to 547 West 63rd Street, Willowbrook. Involuntary annexation. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve based on the discussion items this evening.
Second, Nero.
Motion made in second. Any additional? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Little.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Guzzo.
Yes.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Motion passes. C, 527 West 64th Street, Willowbrook. And again, an involuntary annexation. Do I have a motion?
Motion by Addington to approve based on the discussion this evening.
Second, Nero.
Motion made in second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Little.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Guzzo.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Motion passes. D, 6003, 6023, 6027, 6033 South Richmond, and 416 West 61st Street in Willowbrook. Involuntary annexation. Do I have a motion?
Motion by Addington to approve based on the discussion this evening.
Second, Nero.
Motion made in second. Roll call.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Guzzo.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Little.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
I'm going to skip E and go to F, 5829 and 5861 Western Avenue, Clarendon Hills. Again, an involuntary annexation. Do I have a motion?
Motion by Addington to approve based on discussion this evening.
Second, Nero.
Motion made in second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Little.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Guzzo.
Yes.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Going back to E, I think the recommendation from staff is that we postpone this.
Yeah, that was the request, right? Yes. 4 weeks is adequate for your purposes?
And again, we're postponing it because you've already started the process through the county and we may have
Don't wanna
different
disrupt it.
regulations, so you're, okay. I think we discussed that.
So that's July 19?
19th. July 19th.
Right.
Do I have a motion to postpone it?
Motion by Addington to postpone.
Second, Nero.
Motion
Can I
made
go?
and second to postpone till July 19th. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Little.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Guzzo.
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving on to new business. A, reconsideration of expired variations for the Cass Avenue townhomes. Board to consider an ordinance to extend the previously granted variance approvals for an additional 1 year for this townhouse development, retroactive to June of 2017. We've got our Community Development Director, Burke, to give us more information.
Good evening, Mayor Gunter and board members. As this is my first time to address you formally, I just wanted to introduce or reintroduce myself. I am Marty Burke. I'm the interim Community Development Director, and I've been here a couple of weeks, and I'm happy to be here. As stated in your agenda packet, the developer of the townhome project located at 420 North Cass, Mr. Steve Vernon, is here tonight to address the board and to ask you for an extension of his permit approvals, which includes certain variations for this project. According to the village records, this would be the third extension request since the original village board approval in June of 2015. The second extension expired in August of 2016. In addition to the presence of the developer, I am informed a representative of the potential contract purchaser, D.R. Horton, a national builder, is also in the audience to answer questions if necessary. In considering this request for an extension, there are two issues that the staff would recommend that the village board consider tonight, discuss with the developer, and clarify to your satisfaction. First issue is the elevation renderings presented when the development was originally approved are similar, but have some noticeable differences to the ones that have been presented to the staff by D.R. Horton in their role as contract purchaser. The second one is, in late 2017, the development was very close to achieving permit issuance, but there seemed to have been a difficulty for the developer to provide a letter of credit. Village policy has not been to issue permits until a fully executed letter of credit is provided, and we assume that we will be continuing to enforce that policy. So I would advise that you discuss this with the developer in the course of his presentation. Thank you.
And we can have the developer, and we've, as Mr. Burke said, we've
So Steve
addressed
Vernon.
this property for 3 times already. But
Yes.
Go ahead.
So
Not
Steve
with you,
Vernon,
though.
a little history. Steve Vernon, Cass Avenue Dream Homes, was before you January of 17. Asked for and received an extension. Shortly thereafter, on April 6th of that same year, we submitted a complete packet that included all of our revised engineering, architecture, permit applications, and documentation showing that we had applied for our IEPA permits. So we continued through the process, thought perhaps we would be able to pick up permits and get started once we had the IEPA permits back for the water and storm drainage. But we were told that until every bit of the IEPA permits, sanitary, et cetera, were 100% complete, we wouldn't be able to get started. That was a little bit disappointing to us, as in many cases, we can break ground, build a pad, get detention and stuff in, et cetera, but water under the bridge. At this point, we do have all of those permits. We received them in late August of last year. There was really on our end, there's probably a little bit of a misunderstanding. We always understood that there was a letter of credit required. It came in for review 3 different times, and our lender had approved the letter of credit. We were ready to bring that in actually offered to bring the Mylar, the letter of credit, the permit fee, and the engineering fee in and pick up permits. But unfortunately, we were told that at that point, we would not be able to get the permits. It was late in the season, so we just had to let it go. And we moved on to finish other projects last October, November, December. As we stand right now, everything is 100% ready to go. Engineering has been re-reviewed and is ready for submission. The Mylar is signed, the sanitary district has approved it, the IEPA permits are all set and ready to go. We unfortunately have been tied up with a number of big commercial projects, and D.R. Horton has offered to step in and take over the project. They do things a little differently. For them, the letter of credit wouldn't be a concern. They bond instead of do the letter of credit, and they're not the least bit concerned about that. Their product is essentially the same. Engineering's the same. Their front elevations are slightly different, and they, unlike me, are not totally familiar with the project. I know every detail of this project because I've been working on it for years. So they understand that there may be an extension tonight for a year, but that takes us, obviously, because it's retroactive, to just June.
If I can interrupt, the proposed extension in the ordinance goes through June 30th of 2019.
Oh.
But it's retroactive to June of
Okay.
2017.
Correct. Then there's no concern about the length of time. We will be
My fault,
more
Thomas.
than happy. We can definitely get things done. I know I'm speaking for you, but
Can, in a summary, just remind us how many units are going to be there and kind of the cost? And
yes, absolutely. Now, again, their numbers might be slightly different when it comes to cost. And this project does go back forever, because back in the day, we were going to do 2 16-unit multi-story flex core type products. That was just not practical. You got a couple of those down the street. Cost of construction on something like that today is still much higher than you can sell these for. The new design is stick-built, but fire-protected between units, and has a sprinkler system, which was one of the concessions that was made to get this product through the village.
that was through the fire department?
That was, yeah, through the fire department. So the design, architecture, et cetera, that's gone through all the scrutiny and is ready to go. The project encompasses 22 row townhomes, very attractive. 6 of them face Cass Avenue. They literally are right on Cass Avenue. We didn't talk about it, but the address is 408, 412, 414. So we're talking walking distance from the train station here. We're really excited about that. The unit price, ours were a little bit bigger than what D.R. Horton and what Miss Debbie Beaver is going to talk to you about. Ours were about 2,200 square feet, so they are a little bit larger. Price point was in the 325 to 350 range. We had a combination of 2 and 3 bedrooms. I'll let her address some of the specifics that would be changed in their concept. So,
And I know they'll be going if we approve this, you're going to be doing this in detail at planning and zoning and back before us, but I'm just curious, what's your plan?
So thank you guys for, I'm shorter than he is, for taking the time to go through this. I know this project has been around for a while. As I said, I'm Debbie Beaver. I'm the area manager, land acquisition for D.R. Horton. For those who aren't familiar with us, we are America's largest builder. We build about 40,000 homes a year. We are a builder listed on the New York Stock Exchange. We pay cash for all of our acquisitions. Our latest equity to our shareholders is over $700 billion. So when we come into a project like this is something that we specialize in, taking a project that has had a little bit of trouble, As far as the buildings go, his product is a 3 6-unit buildings and 1 4-unit building of what we call a rear-loaded courtyard product. So it's a 3-story townhome. Our product is identical to that. It is smaller. Our plans are 1,800 square feet, not 2,200 square feet. We have found, as we build this product all over Chicagoland, that 2,200 square feet does get to be unaffordable for people or unattainable. It ends up, at least at this type of putting hardy on it and putting brick on it, ends up in the 400,000s. I was actually a little surprised to hear him say 320s because right now I'm getting close to 400 on the building that we showed you at 1,800 square feet with the criteria that's in the engineering with retaining walls. And as you know, 2 of the buildings the street is only single loaded. So rather being able to take the cost of that street and divide it between buildings on both sides of the street, that building has to carry the weight of that road on its single building. So again, the buildings are relatively the same. I think his buildings were 21 feet wide, ours are 20 feet wide. So our footprint of our building is actually slightly smaller, so we'll actually have more open space. I don't know if you guys remember, but between, if we call them clockwise, buildings 1, 2, the 4-unit building being 4, they were relatively close together. We're going to hold the east building to the north and the southern building to the west so that there's more room between those buildings and we get a little pocket area of more green space there. The exact dimensions are in the packet of the differences between them, but basically his building is 132 feet wide, ours is only 121 feet wide. So we're saving some space and more green, and allowing more green space at that. He did bring up the letter of credit. Per Illinois state statute, we post bonds, and it is absolutely no issue getting a bond when we're ready. We also have vendors that are already registered in the village of Westmont that we use, so I know that was another thing that was kind of holding up the process. Our goal right now is we are under contract as of today, and we have a 120-day feasibility period where we do environmental soil borings, meet with your staff, which we've already had a preliminary meeting, but we would go through meetings and make sure we're all on the same page. But it's our plan to use the existing engineering, the existing landscape, use everything as it was approved, but get building permits for our buildings. But all the horizontal construction would be identical to what was approved. And again, we're looking to be in the ground this fall. I'd like to start digging by October 15th at the very latest so that we can get our model building underway and be open for sales come March for the spring market. I know we talked about elevations. Our elevations are all brick and hardy, so they are the same materials. I believe his building had some stone wrap on the bottom, but ours is all brick. But otherwise, it's the same hardy as before. And I think that's all I had on here. I welcome any questions that you guys have.
Can I chime in?
Yes, the attorney.
Just as a preliminary matter, the ordinance contains a section that states to the extent the building elevations, the site plan, or the landscaping plan that the developer, whoever that may be, proposes to use has non-minor modifications over what was previously approved, it would require reapproval of the revised plans by the village. And that, of course, is common if there's a change. I haven't seen them. I don't know how carefully staff has looked at what you are proposing, but shrinking a building or shrinking unit sizes or a different elevation on the exterior could be enough to trigger you going back through the site and landscaping plan approval, or maybe just site plan approval if that changes. That's a pretty quick process because it's not a public hearing. It would have to go to planning and zoning. Typically, I'll check with staff on that. It's possible it can come straight to the village board. But one thing that planning and zoning looks at carefully are elevations and unique architectural features, et cetera.
Right.
So if some of those are removed, that could cause some angst for staff. There might be other enhancements that would replace that where staff says, oh, this is substantially similar.
Right. So the question that I had was, our building fits within the plat of the lots that are already there?
The footprint?
And the footprint. So our building footprint fits within the building footprint that's signed by the Mylar. In cases where we've done this before, because this particular product, just about every national builder builds it, what we call the Seaboard or Courtyard Townhome. Everybody has a little bit of different bells and whistles on the outside, but it's the exact same 3-story, 2-car garage on the backside, rear-loaded product. And what we do is through the Plat Act, adjust the 1-foot difference between the units, is what we've been doing before. We haven't normally had to go back to Plan Commission on that, but obviously, you guys.
Should be no concern. Yeah, usually it's not a concern if you shrink, and that's been the consistent position of the village. If a footprint shrinks over what was approved, less of a problem, unless it shrinks to a point where the village board would say, or staff would say, that's not what was approved. We were expecting X number of units. If the total unit count's the same or
Yeah,
essentially the same.
it's still 22 units, but instead of being 21 foot wide, we're
Probably
20
less of a
feet wide.
concern. I think of potentially greater concern would be, again, this falls on staff to look at, but make sure the exterior elevations still have the level of detail and quality that was originally approved.
Right. And we are brick and hardy. I mean, we don't have the stone wrap on the bottom, but we do have the brick and hardy as was originally approved.
Board comments, questions?
I have one. If they have to come back to us and/or through planning back to us, why are we entertaining extending the variance?
So the variance expires in 12 months if it's not exercised. And the variances were for things like setbacks, and I know they're listed here.
The variance, most important thing in the variance was a setback, but also the type of construction. Because the community had an all masonry construction requirement, side masonry, separation maintenance. You'd have a row townhome like this, and you had to have flex core between floors of your own space. And we presented that initially and explained how you just couldn't build a product like that. And that was a significant variance from city ordinance.
So that was actually a waiver. That's not a zoning code variance change. That's a waiver from a building code. That's good. That doesn't need reapproved. The two variances were for density and for a setback. And those expired because they were not exercised within 12 months. So by re-extending those, give the opportunity to the developer to build this product, or if there's a change within the extension period, come back and seek approval of the changes.
So the extensions really are a benefit to D.R. Horton then?
Well, to both parties, because
It runs with the land.
yeah, it enables the current owner to sell the property as, with all the entitlements.
With the entitlements,
And the engineering and everything else, so that's a value.
That's what allows us to be able to dig, this site by October.
And if you think that having this project at this location is a value to the village and its residents, then, it's another consideration.
That's the way you want to do it, okay.
Any other trustees? No?
I do have a question. So if you grant this variance tonight, it does not grant our elevation approval, that I'd have to go back through Plan Commission?
Staff will have to review it. I don't know the level of their review yet. I just put in the ordinance that if there are non-minor modifications to the elevation site plan landscaping plan, it will require new village approval. And we can talk about what that process is if we determine
Right,
there are
okay.
changes.
I think that either I was under the understanding or they were, that if we came here tonight and you approved the elevation, that it wouldn't have to go back to Plan Commission.
Well, the only thing that was up first was the variance extension.
Okay.
And that was the kind of the preliminary matter.
Right, okay.
I think I even heard as of today, wasn't sure if you'd be taking this over or if Cass Avenue Dream Homes was still going to build it, so with the original elevation. So I think that was a little premature.
Okay.
As far as the procedure, if staff determines that the two elevations on their own, it's their opinion that they're reasonably the same. Basically, the brick or the stone at the bottom is a change, and the fact that the building is about 5% shorter are the two variances or changes from my design. So is that a staff review item, or does it go beyond that?
It's a staff review item. If they determine that's a minor modification, then you're good to go and get permits. If they decide that's significant.
The initial interpretation, so if
Okay.
staff thinks these are insignificant, we're done talking about it. If it's significant enough that they believe it should be higher attention, then we'll come back to it.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to approve the expired variation?
Motion to approve expired variation.
Second,
Variance
Parker.
mouthful.
Say that fast 20 times.
And motion been made in second to approve the extension on the question. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Little,
Yes.
trustee Barker,
Yes.
trustee Nero,
Yes.
trustee Barry,
Yes.
trustee Addington,
Yes.
trustee Guzzo.
Yes.
Motion passes. We look forward to your building.
Great, thank you. And the variation, just for clarification, is now through June of 19?
Correct. June 30th, 2019.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. New business B, award of bid proposal for 2018 Burr Oak Drive water main. It's a replacement project. Board to consider ordinance awarding the bid proposal from Austin Tyler Construction Incorporated for the 2018 Burr Oak Drive water main replacement project and authorizing a contract consistent with the bid documents. Public Works Director Ramsey.
Thank you, Mayor. The village accepted 8 contractors' bids this past week. The low bidder was Austin Tyler Construction with a low bid of $402,870, which is approximately 33% below the engineering estimate, which we were very excited about. If you guys are aware, Austin Tyler has been doing work on William Street. We contacted Village of Downers Grove to see how they how they're doing their job. They said they are the best contractor they've ever used. So we're very excited about them being the low bidder. I think we'll be very pleased with what they do. So staff is recommending that this ordinance be accepted.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve, Nero?
Second, Guzzo.
Motion made in second to approve as presented on the question. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Nero,
Yes.
trustee Guzzo.
Yes.
Trustee Barker,
Yes.
trustee Little,
Yes.
trustee Barry,
Yes.
trustee Addington.
Yes.
Motion passes. New business D, engineering agreement, 2019 Gateway Beautification Corridor Project.
Have another
Skipped one.
Uh-oh,
C,
I always skip
other
that.
Burr Oak.
Burr Oak Drive Water Main Replacement Project. Board to consider ordinance authorizing an engineering agreement with Baxter and Woodman for Phase 3 construction engineering service for the Burr Oak Water Main Replacement Project. Director Ramsey.
Thank you, Mayor. Just give you a little background on this. This water main is only 45 years old, but in the last 10 years, we've had over 26 water main breaks on this particular water main. The project will include 1,250 linear feet of 8-inch water main and 4 new fire hydrants and 3 new valves. The Baxter and Woodman proposal includes Phase 3 construction engineering not to exceed the amount of $49,000. This project will entail open cut of Burr Oak Drive on the east side of the road. We'll also be extending a new hydrant for the pavilion for Ty Warner Park there. It was something that was requested of us years back because they feel like in case something, because they grill out there, it'd be nice to have a hydrant closer to the pavilion. So we are installing a hydrant there as part of this project.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve, Little.
Second, Nero.
Motion been made in second on the question. Anybody? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Little,
Yes.
trustee Barry,
Yes.
trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Guzzo.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Motion passes. Now, new business D, engineering agreement for 2019 Gateway Beautification Corridor Project. Board to consider an ordinance authorizing an engineering agreement with ESI Consultants Ltd. for engineering design Phase 2 services for the 2019 Gateway Beautification Corridor project. Director Ramsey.
Thank you, Mayor. This design of the Village Gateway Beautification Corridor along North Cass Avenue between Indian Trail and 35th Street and along Ogden between Oakwood Drive and Route 83 will include raised landscape medians shall be included with sprinkler systems, electrical for enhancement lighting. Design is also to include the naturalization of the existing basin at Route 83 in Ogden. Request is to approve the sum of $69,700 for design Phase 2 engineering services for the Gateway Beautification Corridor project.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve, Little?
Second, Nero.
Motion made second to approve on the question. Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Little?
Yes.
Trustee Barry?
Yes.
Trustee Addington?
Yes.
Trustee Nero?
Yes.
Trustee Guzzo?
Yes.
Trustee Barker?
Yes.
Motion passes. New business E, IPBC resigning member agreement on termination matters. Board to consider an ordinance approving an intergovernmental personnel benefit cooperative and resigning member agreement on termination matters. And do we go with the manager on this one?
Yes, this is simply a form of, well, you've already approved the change of the benefits pool, so it's effective July 1st, we're already moving to the new pool. This is the existing one, and there are certain matters that are still in progress or, being acted on now that will bridge over that date. So this termination, when it says matters, it's termination of the pool membership, but it's to continue the terminal reserve and continue to process these things even though we're not in that pool. Simple enough, right? So that this is just the agreement to allow them to continue to do that.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve, Nero.
Second, Little?
Motion been made and second to approve on the question. Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Nero?
Yes.
Trustee Barry?
Yes.
Trustee Little?
Yes.
Trustee Barker?
Yes.
Trustee Guzzo?
Yes.
Trustee Addington?
Yes.
Motion passes. New business F, text amendment. Micro blading? Blading. Board to consider ordinance amending chapter 46, section 46-200, section 46-210, and create section 46-214 to address microblading and permanent makeup as accessory uses to a licensed beauty salon. Attorney Zemanek.
The village currently licenses tattoo establishments and requires what zoning district those establishments can be located, which currently is the M district. The village has learned that a use that's rising in popularity is called microblading or permanent makeup, which is done as typically as an accessory use to in beauty salons or spas. And it's a way to enhance eyebrows. That's what microblading is, through a semi-permanent tattoo application using a little micro needle, and it's not quite like regular, it's not like regular tattooing. Also, permanent makeup is a way to improve appearance of eyebrows, lips, things like that, and it's oftentimes done for people suffering the after effects of cancer treatments, things like that, or sometimes for cosmetic enhancements. There's currently businesses performing these services in town. Alicia Richards down in the clerk's office became aware of. We talked about how to address it, looked it up, and said, you know what, this is really not a tattoo use. It's something a little different and should be exempt from the licensing requirement and allowed from a zoning perspective as an accessory use to a licensed beauty salon. So that's the proposal.
And we discussed this at a committee meeting.
Yes.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve as presented?
Second, Addington.
Motion been made and second to approve. Any questions? Trustee Little.
The microblading is not permanent, it's semi-permanent,
Correct.
and it disappears within,
So many months.
Okay.
Yeah.
thank you.
Any additional comments? Seeing none, I'd ask for a roll call, please.
Trustee Barry?
Yes.
Trustee Addington?
Yes.
Trustee Little?
Yes.
Trustee Barker?
Yes.
Trustee Guzzo?
Yes.
Trustee Nero?
Yes.
Motion passes. New business G, prevailing wage. Board to consider an ordinance to ascertain prevailing wages as defined in said act. This is an annual event, and I'll turn to Manager May.
Yeah, it is simply that. It's required by law. We adopt each year we generally adopt that we're going to follow the Prevailing Wage Act in the state of Illinois as published for DuPage County. Those are periodically revised through the year, so every time we have a contract document, we just substitute the current prevailing wage in these documents. And it's a requirement, so I ask that you approve it.
Motion to
So
approve.
moved, Addington.
Nero. Second, Nero.
Motion been made and second to approve the prevailing wage. Any additional comments, questions? Seeing a roll call, please.
Trustee Addington?
Yes.
Trustee Barry?
Yes.
Trustee Little?
Yes.
Trustee Barker?
Yes.
Trustee Guzzo?
Yes.
Trustee Nero?
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving on, miscellaneous.
Mayor?
Board, yes, sir.
I would just like to thank Jim Long for providing us the summary of the home values, whether you're annexed into the community or not. You know, it's never good to have incurred cost as a homeowner, but the home values, as Jim said, the home values will go up because they're part of our community. And you know, as we all know, Jim has a very good reputation as a longtime realtor here and has a handle on that kind of thing. So I'm just want to say thank you to him for that.
For your information, he was in the village hall today, so he's doing well also. So he was out and about. He was, you know, as angry as ever. No, it's just, we had, you know, business to get to. He came in to do it.
Looks great after
Yeah.
his open heart surgery, and
Yeah, he does.
he's doing quite well. And he did this in his recovery week, 6 weeks or whatever it was, so. Anything else? Larry, you have any? Nothing? We're good? Then I entertain a motion to go into executive session. And the motion to adjourn is to discuss the following: the purchase of property for the use of the village pursuant to Section 2C5 of the Open Meetings Act, and 2, setting the price for the sale of real estate owned by the village pursuant to Section 2C6 of the Open Meetings Act. Do I have a motion?
Motion to go into executive session for those two reasons?
Second?
Motion made second to adjourn to executive session, and I'd ask for a roll call.
Trustee Addington?
Yes.
Trustee Barry?
Yes.
Trustee Little?
Yes.
Trustee Barker?
Yes.
Trustee Guzzo?
Yes.
Trustee Nero?
Yes.
Okay, at this time, we're going to adjourn to executive session. After the executive session, there will not be any additional business, and we'll then adjourn the meeting. So I thank everybody for coming, and at this point, we're going to go into executive session. Thank you.